today we're going to use scraps to make our own layer cakes. So let's first talk about what a layer cake is. A layer cake is a set of fabric. Usually it's a sampling from a line of fabric. It's 10-inch squares. Moda is the one who makes layer cakes. There's a whole bunch of different names for these depending on the fabric company. The word layer cake has kind of become synonymous with the 10-inch square sets. It's a generic name now, kind of like Band-Aid. I am going to make mine out of pink and purple scraps. Let me grab them. Here's my overflowing container. I don't use a lot of pinks and purples. I think that if I have them maybe in a layer cake form, I will use them more. I also pulled all of my pink and purple fat quarters. I don't know if I'll use these or not. It just depends on how many fabrics I have in my scraps. So let's sort through all of those scraps and see what we can come up with, and I'll show you the next step. I have this big bin of all my purples and pinks, and I'm going to go through and pull out the fabrics that I know are big enough to make a 10-inch square. So for example, these wouldn't be, so I'm going to set these aside for a different project, and we're going to sort through. I do have quite a bit, not as much as I thought, and I'm noticing I have some peaches and some pinks, so we're gonna have to address that too. I still have a ton of scraps left, but it definitely put a dent in them. We're gonna see what we have and sort through these. I also have all of these fat quarters that I pulled, so we will probably end up using these too. I'll set those aside for now. So out of this pile that we have, like I said, we have some peachy kind of pinks and some brighter kind of pinks. So I'm gonna separate them out, and I think I'm gonna put the brighter pinks with the purples, see what we have. Oh, now this one's interesting because this is like peach inside of a bright pink. So I'm going to put that one in with the peach. Have some novelty prints, some lights. I'm doing this in real time, so I had no idea I had so many peach fabrics. That's a batik, and I do have batiks in a different place. Let's see. That could go in either pile. We're going to set that right here. This is more of a peachy. I'm not sure about that one. All right, so I have two piles now, purples and pinks, and more of the peachy tone colors. We're gonna start with the purples and pinks. All right, as I went through these, I think this is gonna make a really great layer cake pack. There's a few that I'm gonna take out, and one of them is this one. I love this fabric, but I think there's too much yellow. So we're gonna pull that one out. This is almost white. It's such a light pink, so I'm gonna pull that one out. But I like this one because it's a nice pattern. Let's see. I think the rest can stay. So the purples, I think we're in good shape. Awesome. I took all of those pinks and purple fabric scraps. I pressed them real nice and starched them. They're wonderful. We're getting ready to cut. But before we do, I want to show you some more of the sorting process, because when I laid them all out, there were a few that I wasn't a fan of. For example, in this picture, you can see some of them aren't quite going together real well, so I decided to pull some out. You can see here, just it looks a whole lot better already. And then I decided to pull some more purples in just to balance out those colors. And you can see that here. And lastly, I wanted to show you some fabric that would go with these. This would make a really great background, this deep dark purple. I just love this together. Just an idea when you are making your own layer cakes, so you kind of have a plan going forward and you can see how different fabrics can go with them. Next up, we cut them, and I'll show you how we put them all together. Now that we have all the fabrics picked out and ready to go, we're going to start cutting them. I'm going to show you 3 different ways to cut these squares. The first way is probably the easiest, using a 10 by 10 inch square, but not everybody has this. Although if you are going to be making a lot of these, this is a great tool to have because you can just cut around it. So here's my rotating mat. This also helps when you're doing this. You can place this right on here. Take your ruler and line it up so the fabric is straight. You can kind of see the grain lines. You really want to keep it straight so it's not a wonky square, especially when you sew it together. You simply take your rotary cutter and cut around it. And then you can hold it and turn it so you can get these other sides. Make sure it all pulls away, which this one's not, before you move your ruler, in case you have to trim it anymore, which I think I'll have to here too. Just like that. Okay, and there you have it, a 10-inch square ready to go. Let's do another one using another method. Okay, so the second way, we're going to use the lines on our mat. And I am not a fan of this method because I feel like it can get distorted. The lines on our mat do get wavy as we cut on them, so you can get some distortion. Not my favorite way, but I know a lot of people love it. I'm also going to use the side lock, quilter side lock by Fallon from So Be It Quilts, and I'll put a link below for that. And I'm going to line this up. I'm going to line it up on a line on here so I'm not wasting too much, but I can still clean up that edge. Make sure it's straight, and I'm looking at the grain lines in the fabric. If you look close enough, you can see them. Making sure it's straight. Hold this down and cut. This is a really great tool. It saves your fingers and hands and everything else. And then I'm going to count over 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So here at this 14-inch line, and always count twice, measure twice, cut once, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so we're all set. I'm going to line this up. Make sure this is lined up, is ready to go, and cut. And then I'm going to rotate this, and I'm lining this up on the lines on my mat, and cut. And again, count again, and line this up. There we go. So we have a 10-inch square. And the last way to do this is to use a ruler that's bigger than 10 inches. This is probably my favorite way. I like to use the other side of the mat. I'll flip it over. Here's a piece of a mat. My old mats I always have my husband cut down because I like to use the other side. It works really well. So it's a great way to use up some old mats. All right, so I'll put this on here. Again, I don't like having it on a line mat because it confuses me with the lines, and I don't want to be confused. So I'm looking at the grain of the fabric again. I'm lining this up straight, trimming up one edge, and again, pulling it away before. And then I go over to the 10-inch mark, line up my straight edge on that 10-inch mark, cut my other piece on this way. So I know that this is 10 inches across. Now we can turn this, trim up this edge, and then turn my ruler, and I can even turn my mat, and line up this one. And I like to not line this edge up with the edge of the ruler, but line it up on a line, and trim. And there you have it, a 10 by 10 inch square. It is all done. So here are the fabrics that I use and all the blocks. They're so great. I love the variety. I love the scrappiness of it. It's gonna make it so much easier to use up my scraps. It's gonna be really nice when I'm inspired to make something and I maybe don't wanna cut up my scraps. I have them all set right here. To get them into a packet like this, I used the board, the 10-inch board from a layer cake that I had used already. So I always save them. And then I used, let me grab it, the adding tape just to put paper around it so it keeps it all together. This will be great because I can just set it on the shelf just like I would a layer cake. It is shifting a little. I might have to make it a little tighter, but it's all together and ready to go when the inspiration strikes. There are a ton of patterns out there that use layer cakes, and I'll link some below, and also I have a few maybe coming up in videos in the future, so make sure you stay tuned for that. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it helps you save money and use up some of those scraps. That's what it's all about, and it's so much fun to pull something like this together. Have a great day. Make sure you take some time to sew, and I'll see you real soon. Bye.